The day humanity returned, the Hall of Continuity rose above the capital city like a mountain of polished silver, its curved spires reflecting the light of 3 suns. Tens of thousands filled the grand amphitheater beneath it, while billions more watched from worlds scattered across the Orion Spur. Today marked the bicentennial of Humanity Extinction Day. For most citizens of the Galactic Concordium, the event was little more than a historical holiday. Children learned about it in school. Museums displayed relics recovered from ruined human settlements. Politicians praised the peace that followed the war. At the center of the stage stood High Executor Zaltor. The towering alien surveyed the audience with practiced confidence. Age had silvered the ridges along his face, but nothing had softened the sharpness in his eyes. "The galaxy endures because it learns," he declared. His amplified voice rolled through the enormous chamber. 200 years ago, a young species challenged the order that protected civilization. They rejected cooperation. They chose confrontation. Massive screens displayed images from the old war, human warships burning, shattered colonies drifting through space, fleets vanishing into nuclear fire. Their fate serves as a lesson. Survival belongs to those who adapt. Applause thundered across the hall. Zaltor allowed himself a small smile. Humanity's destruction had become the cornerstone of his legacy. Entire generations knew him as the architect of galactic stability. Every year the celebration reinforced that image. Everything remained exactly as it should be. Or so he believed. More than 3,000 light-years away, a monitoring station drifted through deep space. The facility was small, forgotten, and usually uneventful. Senior Analyst Corvin was halfway through a shift report when his console flashed red. He frowned. "That's odd." A cluster of unusual readings appeared on the display. Energy fluctuations. Spatial distortions. Transient signatures. None of it made sense. Corvin adjusted the sensors and ran a diagnostic. The readings remained. A younger technician glanced over. "Equipment fault?" "That's what I thought." Corvin opened a deeper scan. Seconds later, his expression hardened. "No. This is real." The distortions were spreading. Not naturally. Artificially. Something was approaching. Then another alert appeared. A transponder signal. Ancient. Fragmented. Almost unreadable. The computer struggled to identify it. When the result finally appeared, silence filled the room. The technician blinked twice. "That can't be right." Corvin stared at the screen. Neither spoke for several seconds. The identification code belonged to a military registry that had not existed for 2 centuries. Human. Beyond the borders of known space, hidden behind regions no explorer had successfully mapped, thousands of stars burned in silence. Here, humanity lived. Not as scattered survivors. Not as refugees. As a civilization. Massive shipyards orbited artificial worlds. Cities stretched across habitats larger than moons. Fleets occupied entire sectors. For 200 years they had remained invisible. Now that secrecy was ending. Admiral Elias Ward stood on the command deck of the battleship Indomitable. Beyond the reinforced viewport hung an impossible sight. Warships. Thousands of them. Carriers, destroyers, cruisers, battleships. Their formation extended so far into the darkness that individual vessels disappeared into distant points of light. Commander Sophia Reyes approached. "Final readiness report." Ward accepted the datapad. Every fleet had reported in. Every colony had voted. Every contingency had been reviewed. After generations of preparation, there were no delays left to justify. "Population shelters?" Ward asked. "Secure. Reserve fleets?" "Standing by." He nodded. The answer had always been simple. Humanity could hide forever. Or it could return. A quiet voice interrupted his thoughts. "Admiral." He turned toward a young communications officer. Transmission windows are opening. The moment had arrived. Ward looked through the viewport once more. Many of the people serving under him had never seen Earth. They knew it only through stories, recordings, and fading photographs. Yet every one of them understood what had been taken. And what waited beyond the darkness. Not revenge. A future. Begin Phase 1, Ward said. The officer hesitated. Not from uncertainty. From awe. Then she smiled. Yes, sir. Across hidden human space, countless commands activated simultaneously. Jump drives charged. Navigation systems synchronized. Long-dormant protocols awakened. Project Hades had begun. Back in the capital, Zaltor concluded his address. The extinction of humanity secured 2 centuries of prosperity. Let their memory remind us that stability must always prevail. The audience erupted into applause. Then every screen in the amphitheater flickered. Zaltor frowned. Technicians exchanged confused looks. The disturbance spread across the hall. Across the city. Across the planet. Across the galaxy. Civilian networks froze. Military channels locked. Emergency systems activated. A single transmission overrode them all. The image that appeared was simple. A dark background. A human emblem. Then a voice spoke. Calm. Steady. Unmistakably human. The Galactic Concordium has declared humanity extinct. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The voice continued. Humanity respectfully disagrees. At that exact moment, thousands of spatial ruptures tore open across known space. And from each one emerged warships that should not have existed. Humanity had returned. Ghosts of the dead, the galaxy had spent 2 centuries believing a certainty. In less than a minute, that certainty collapsed. Emergency broadcasts flooded every network. Civilian traffic jammed communication channels. Financial markets suspended operations. Defense forces across thousands of systems moved to combat readiness. Every screen showed the same images. Human warships. Not wrecks. Not relics. Active fleets. At Concordium Central Command, panic simmered beneath forced professionalism. Contact reports from 23 sectors. Confirmed human vessels in the Perseus corridor. Defense stations requesting engagement authority. Unknown fleet strength. The room buzzed with overlapping voices. High Executor Zaltor entered. Silence followed immediately. The old leader walked toward the command platform, but those closest noticed something unusual. His movements were rigid. Controlled. As if effort was required. A tactical display illuminated the chamber. Thousands of red markers spread across known space. Human positions. For the first time in centuries, Zaltor felt uncertainty. He remembered the war. He remembered Earth burning. He remembered watching human fleets die defending impossible odds. They were supposed to be gone. Every report. Every survey. Every expedition. All had confirmed the same conclusion. Extinction. Yet the evidence now floated before him. Alive. Organized. Prepared. One commander broke the silence. Executor, should we open communications? No. The answer came instantly. Several officers exchanged glances. Zaltor noticed. His voice hardened. Mobilize regional fleets. Restrict media access. No unauthorized statements. Sir, another officer said carefully, the public already knows. The old ruler looked toward the tactical map. The problem wasn't the ships. The problem was what they represented. If humanity survived, then history changed. And if history changed, so did his legacy. Aboard the battleship Indomitable, Admiral Elias Ward watched a very different scene. Human fleets moved according to schedules written decades earlier. No celebrations. No speeches. Only discipline. The return had been planned too long for emotional decisions. Commander Sofia Reyes approached carrying a stack of reports. The broadcasts achieved full penetration. Ward nodded. Responses? Exactly what we expected. She activated a holographic display. Political instability indicators flashed across dozens of systems. Military deployments accelerated everywhere. Economic networks showed immediate disruption. Ward studied the data. The galaxy built itself around our disappearance. Yes. And now? Sophia allowed herself a small smile. Now they're discovering assumptions can expire. The Admiral looked toward the stars. Status of reclamation groups? First wave entered 6 former colony systems. No resistance. Casualties? None. That mattered. Humanity's return required legitimacy. The moment civilians suffered, the narrative changed. Ward would not allow that. Continue as planned. The first reclaimed system was New Carthage. 2 centuries earlier it had housed nearly 40 million humans. Now it sat abandoned. Silent stations orbited a dying star. Ancient shipyards drifted in darkness. Human crews moved through corridors untouched for generations. Captain Noah Singh led one of the inspection teams. Dust floated through the airlock as the massive doors opened. The station felt like a tomb. Power grid still operational, a technician reported. Noah raised an eyebrow. After 200 years? Backup reactors. Primitive, but reliable. They advanced deeper inside. Walls displayed faded murals. Children. Families. Cities. Lives interrupted by war. One Marine stopped near an old plaque. What does it say? Noah brushed away accumulated debris. The inscription emerged. We will return. For several seconds nobody spoke. Then the captain quietly said, looks like they were right. Not every species greeted humanity with fear. Far from Concordium territory, a diplomatic vessel approached the human perimeter. Its identification codes belonged to the Volari coalition. Ward received the message personally. A blue-skinned alien appeared on the screen. His silver eyes reflected intelligence rather than hostility. I am Ambassador Terranvel. Admiral Ward. The diplomat inclined his head. A historic introduction. Ward remained cautious. What does the coalition want? Truth. The answer arrived without hesitation. Terran folded his hands. Many governments opposed the extermination campaign. Few possessed the power to stop it. Ward studied him carefully. You expect us to believe that? No. I expect you to investigate it. The ambassador transmitted encrypted archives. Records. Votes. Transcripts. Evidence. Documents showing resistance from species long erased from official histories. For the first time, Ward saw proof that the galaxy had never been completely united against humanity. Interesting, he said. History is often edited by victors, Terran replied. Before the channel closed, the diplomat added one final statement. The Concordium fears your weapons. Ward narrowed his eyes. And what do you fear? Terran's expression became thoughtful. That you have returned seeking revenge. The transmission ended. 3 days later, the first shots were fired. A Concordium task force entered the Kilos corridor, where human survey ships were restoring an abandoned navigation network. The alien commander demanded immediate withdrawal. The humans refused. Weapons locked. Missiles launched. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human vessels moved with frightening precision. They avoided unnecessary risks. Targeted command ships first. Disrupted communications second. Disabled engines third. When the engagement ended, the Concordium force retreated in disarray. Human losses, 0. The news spread rapidly. The galaxy learned a second uncomfortable fact. Humanity had not spent 2 centuries hiding. Humanity had spent 2 centuries preparing. That evening, Ward stood alone inside the observation deck. Before him floated a holographic projection of Sol, the birthplace of his species. The system no living human had ever seen. Earth rotated slowly at the center of the display. Scarred. Distant. Waiting. Sophia entered quietly. The route is clear. Ward never looked away from the projection. How long? Several weeks. The Admiral folded his hands behind his back. 2 centuries of survival had led to one destination. Not conquest. Not glory. Home. We're coming back, he whispered. And for the first time since humanity revealed itself, emotion slipped through the composure he wore like armor. We're finally coming home. Return to the ashes. The closer humanity came to Sol, the quieter the fleet became. Thousands of vessels crossed the darkness in disciplined formation, yet the usual conversations had faded. Crews performed their duties, monitored systems, reviewed tactical projections, but everyone's thoughts drifted toward the same destination. Home. For most aboard the Armada, Earth was not a place. It was a story. A world described in history archives. A name spoken during memorial ceremonies. A symbol carried across 2 centuries of exile. Now it waited ahead. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Elias Ward stood before a navigation display showing the final approach. We'll reach the heliopause in 6 hours, Sophia Reyes reported. Ward nodded. Any movement from Concordium forces? Tracking us, but keeping their distance. That answer bothered him. Zaltor wasn't retreating. He was gathering strength. The question was where. Elsewhere within the fleet, tensions were growing. Several senior commanders assembled inside a strategic conference chamber. Commander Victor Hale spoke first. They tried to erase us. His gaze swept across the room. They destroyed Earth. They hunted civilians. They exterminated entire colonies. Nobody disagreed. The records were undeniable. Hale folded his arms. And now we're supposed to offer diplomacy? Another officer nodded. They'll attack eventually. The debate had become increasingly common. Many survivors carried inherited memories of loss. Children raised on stories of sacrifice often imagined justice differently than those responsible for preserving civilization. Ward listened in silence before responding. If revenge becomes our purpose, then the Concordium wins. Hale frowned. How? Because we'd become exactly what they claimed we were. The room remained quiet. Ward continued. Our return has one objective. Humanity lives openly again. Nothing more. Not everyone looked convinced. Still, no one challenged him further. Hours later, the fleet reached the edge of the solar system. Every ship received the same transmission. A live feed from the flagship's forward sensors. Millions watched. Silence spread through human space. Then Neptune appeared. Blue. Distant. Real. People stared at screens in homes, stations, and command centers. For the first time in history, generations born after the evacuation witnessed the cradle of their species. As the fleet advanced inward, ancient landmarks emerged. Fragments of orbital infrastructure drifted through darkness. Broken shipyards. Collapsed habitats. Ruins. Ghosts of a civilization interrupted. Captain Noah Singh studied the imagery from aboard the battleship Resolute Dawn. They left nothing untouched. No, his executive officer replied quietly. They didn't. The evidence surrounded them. Every shattered structure told part of the story. Every wreck represented lives cut short. 3 days later, Earth finally appeared. No announcement was necessary. No explanation needed. Everyone recognized it instantly. The blue oceans remained. Clouds still swirled above continents. Yet scars stretched across entire regions. Orbital bombardments had left permanent marks visible from space. The sight hit harder than anyone expected. Even seasoned officers found themselves unable to speak. Ward stared through the observation deck window. Earth survived. Wounded. Changed. But alive. Much like humanity itself. The first landing mission departed within hours. Among those selected was Mira Ward. As humanity's chief archivist, documenting this moment was her responsibility. As the Admiral's daughter, it was something more. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Clouds parted. Ancient coastlines appeared beneath them. Mira's pulse quickened. When the landing gear finally touched soil, nobody moved immediately. They simply sat there, absorbing reality. Then the hatch opened. Fresh air entered the cabin. Earth's air. Mira stepped onto the surface. For a moment she forgot every prepared speech. Forgot the cameras. Forgot the history. She simply looked. Grass moved gently in the wind. Birds crossed the sky. Life endured. A nearby officer wiped his eyes. "I never thought." His voice failed. Mira understood. None of them had. The exploration team reached the remains of an old data archive partially buried beneath vegetation. Emergency power still functioned. Barely. Technicians restored the system. A recording flickered onto a damaged screen. The image showed ordinary civilians. Families. Workers. Children. People preparing for evacuation. A woman looked directly into the camera. Fear was visible in her eyes. Determination too. If this survives. She began. Static interrupted briefly. Then the message returned. It means somebody made it. Behind her, crowded transports waited. The woman smiled sadly. We don't know what happens next. She glanced toward unseen activity. But if you're watching this, humanity survived. Several members of the team lowered their heads. The recording continued. Keep going. Then the image vanished. No dramatic farewell. No heroic speech. Just hope. Mira stared at the blank screen. The people in that message had never learned the outcome. They had simply believed. And they had been right. Meanwhile, far beyond Seoul, High Executor Zaltor finalized his response. Inside a heavily guarded command fortress, fleet markers filled an enormous tactical display. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. Nearly every major Concordium formation was present. An officer hesitated before speaking. Executor, this concentration leaves other sectors vulnerable. I know. The risk is significant. Zaltor's expression hardened. The greater risk is allowing humanity to exist. The room fell silent. His decision was made. There would be no negotiations. No coexistence. Only one final campaign. Back in Seoul, alarms suddenly activated across the human fleet. Sophia Reyes looked up from her console. Her face tightened. Admiral. Ward turned. What is it? She expanded a sensor feed. The display filled with incoming contacts. Thousands. More appearing every second. The largest military force ever assembled was approaching Earth. Ward studied the data for a long moment. Then he straightened. The journey home was over. The fight for humanity's future was about to begin. Signal all commands, he said calmly. Battle stations. And throughout the solar system, warships began preparing for the storm. The Ghost Armada's last stand. The Concordium Armada arrived like a collapsing sky. Thousands of warships emerged from fold space in layered formations, encircling the solar system with surgical precision. Their arrival distorted local gravity wells, flickering the edges of orbital debris fields. Earth hung beneath them like a target that refused to die. On every human vessel, red threat markers flooded tactical screens. Commander Sophia Reyes spoke first, voice tight. Contact confirmed. We're outnumbered 8-1 in capital ships alone. No one corrected her. The ratio worsened every minute. On the Indomitable, Admiral Elias Ward studied the formation patterns. They're not improvising, he said. They're locking us inside the system, Reyes replied. Ward nodded once. Then we don't leave. Across the fleet, Concordium channels opened. High Executor Zaltor appeared on every human display without permission. His voice carried calm certainty. You have returned to ruins you do not own, he said. Withdraw, and your species may survive in exile. Resist, and I will ensure history does not repeat its mistake. Silence followed. Ward activated his channel. History already failed once, he replied. It won't get a second attempt at us. Zaltor's gaze narrowed. Then you choose extinction. The transmission cut. A second later, the first barrage began. Space lit up above Earth. Concordium vessels fired in synchronized waves, saturating orbital lanes with energy spears and kinetic swarms. Human screens filled with incoming trajectories. Intercept patterns active, Reyes called out. Fleet Delta and Sigma, rotate shields, don't break formation. Human ships moved like a single organism. They didn't chase firepower. They erased coordination. Command nodes in the Concordium fleet began blinking out, jammed, misdirected, isolated. Ships drifted apart as targeting systems failed to synchronize. Captain Noah Singh, aboard Resolute Dawn, watched his tactical overlay shift. They're losing formation integrity, his weapons officer said. No, Noah replied quietly. We're taking it from them. A Concordium cruiser broke formation, attempting a flanking maneuver toward Earth's orbital path. It never reached halfway. 3 human interceptors appeared on its vector, not firing immediately, but cutting its communication links first. When it finally reacted, it was already blind. The cruiser detonated seconds later. Noah exhaled once. Keep pressure on their command layer. On Earth, Mira Ward stood in the remains of an old observation facility, watching the battle unfold through orbital feeds. The sky above the planet flickered with distant light, artificial stars born from war. She whispered, almost to herself, they brought everything. A technician beside her answered, so did we. Back in orbit, Zaltor adjusted his strategy. This is not containment, he said sharply. It is defiance. He leaned forward. Deploy the Eclipse protocol. A hush spread across his command staff. One officer hesitated. Executor, that will collapse half the inner fleet grid. Then it collapses, Zaltor replied. Humanity does not leave this system alive. Massive Concordium vessels shifted formation. Energy cores began charging beyond safe thresholds. Ward's sensors detected the change instantly. Reyes looked up. They're overcharging weapon arrays. Ward's expression tightened. They're trying to burn the system clean. A pause. Then he said, activate Hades reserves. For a moment, no one moved. Then every hidden signal in the system answered. Space around Earth fractured again. But this time, the arrivals were not new fleets. They were old ones. Buried shipyards beneath lunar crust activated after centuries of silence. Sleeper arrays inside asteroid fields unfolded like mechanical flowers. Long-hidden vessels emerged from stealth orbitals positioned before most Concordium charts were even drawn. The Ghost Armada reawakened. Zaltor stared at the expanding sensor readout. This is impossible. Reyes allowed herself a quiet breath. We never left anything unguarded. The balance of the battle shifted instantly. Human ships were no longer outnumbered. They were surrounded in depth. And they knew every inch of the battlefield. Ward stepped forward. All fleets, he transmitted. We end this cleanly. He paused. No unnecessary losses. Not theirs. Not ours. A beat of silence followed across human channels. Then confirmation spread. The Ghost Armada moved. Not in chaos. In memory. Every formation echoed centuries of planning. Every maneuver reflected doctrines refined in exile. Concordium formations began collapsing under pressure they couldn't predict. Zaltor watched his empire fracture in real time. For the first time, his voice lost its certainty. Fall back to Sol orbit. Re-establish control. But control was already gone. On Zaltor's flagship, alarms screamed as internal systems failed. A subordinate spoke urgently. Executor, multiple fleets are surrendering communications. They're receiving human override signals. Zaltor turned slowly. Impossible. They're broadcasting historical proof of the war, the officer continued. Genocide records. Chain of command authorization logs. Every allied system is seeing it. The silence that followed was heavier than explosions outside. Ward's voice returned to every channel. This ends now, he said. Stand down, or be remembered as the ones who tried again. A pause. Then a final transmission came through from Concordium fleet commanders. Not Zaltor. Others. We surrender. One by one. Systems began to disengage weapons. Ships powered down. The Eclipse protocol never completed. Zaltor's flagship drifted alone. Surrounded. Isolated. Ward's vessel approached within visual range. For the first time, the two leaders saw each other directly. Zaltor spoke first. You should have stayed dead. Ward answered simply. We didn't choose survival to impress you. A silence stretched between them. Then Ward added, quieter. We chose it because no one else would choose it for us. Zaltor's expression hardened, but something beneath it cracked. The Concordium fleet stopped firing entirely. Across Sol, weapons fell silent. The war ended not with annihilation, but with collapse of belief. Hours later, debris drifted across Earth's orbit like falling ash. Human ships held formation, not pursuing retreating forces. Reyes looked toward Ward. It's over. Ward nodded once. Then he turned toward Earth. Below them, the planet continued rotating, scarred, but intact. After 2 centuries of silence, humanity no longer hid. It endured. And this time, the galaxy knew it.